Manual and mental exertion is required when working in the construction sector. Not just physical power is needed, but those working in the construction space must also think critically and solve problems quickly. This is another area where men and women can excel and are required in the construction business. Just like our guest today here in Thriving in Construction, the podcast, I can't wait for you to hear the story of a successful businessman and businesswoman, a husband and wife tandem. But life wasn't that easy for them. However, I leave that story for them to tell you personally. They are professionals, experts in the engineering and construction management field. Let us all welcome Graciela-Uddin and Naeem-Uddin, the owners of Graciela and Naeem. Good afternoon, everybody. We're here with a couple that is, I want to say they are experts in construction. And I'm so delighted. This is the first time we bring to the podcast a couple that works together. And they are very well known here in South Florida, Grace and Naeem. And I really want to thank you for coming all the way from Broward to here, to Miami, and for sharing your expertise and everything that you do. Mm-hmm. You guys are an icon in South Florida.
Thank you about that.
Sometimes we don't recognize ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I believe you are. So
thank
you for being here.
Thank you, Patricia, for inviting us. It's a great opportunity to get to know each other a little bit more. My name is Graciela Beltran-Uddin, just to make sure. But everybody calls me Grace, and this is Naeem-Uddin.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. Also, this is certainly a new thing for us. We appreciate your interest in us, and thank you for inviting us. Mm-hmm. And I'm Naeem-Uddin, by the way, as you all have figured out by now. So.
Yeah, he's Naeem. She's Grace. You can see her face, so beautiful. So Grace is Colombian, so this is another thing that differentiates them also. Mm-hmm. She's Colombian, and you're from Pakistan.
Yes.
Yeah, very unique.
Very unique, right? Mm-hmm. Even in that, you guys are innovators.
Yes, that's the word.
So can I ask, because I'm curious, how do you guys meet?
Well, actually, it's a romantic story. We were both going to the University of Miami, both studying civil engineering, and Naeem was senior to me. So what would happen was that he would come out of a class and in his senior year, and I would go into the same class. So I kind of, I kind of liked him, and I was waiting to see if he would say hello, but he wouldn't. So I would always look forward to the day of the class where he would come out and I would come in. So seeing that he was very shy, I was the one who said, "What's your name?" as he was coming out, because he would smile, but that was it, So he said Naeem, and when he said Naeem back in the 80s, that was a very unusual name. I wasn't familiar with, from that side of the world, names. So when he said Naeem, I thought he was saying name, and I said, "Can you please spell that? Because I'm never going to remember that." So he spelled it out, and we'll say the rest is history. Then we met for graduation. He started to say hello, actually, after each class. And then for graduation, I gave him a card wishing him a happy graduation and all that. And then
to a special person?
To a special person.
So then I asked, well, how special?
You want the details.
Right. So it started from there.
But did you meet towards the end of the civil engineering career? Okay.
Education, yeah. His senior year.
Your senior. So so then what? You asked how special?
How special. So, that was at the graduation day, at the ceremony. And then after that, we started, I invited her to a dinner.
Right.
First date sort of thing. And then we went out, and then we started.
It was at the Rusky Pelican.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And we started to then see each other, became friends first, and eventually, I think, over friendship.
He graduated, and he got a job like 5 minutes from my house. So he would come over every day.
Free dinners.
Free dinners, yeah.
Steak and rice and beans. So.
Yeah, Spanish.
I was more looking for the dinner than the work. Forward.
Yeah. So he didn't let me go.
Now, your families, because I know you're probably a strong tradition. Typically, do they marry the same people from the same area, the same religion, or how does that?
Well, certainly the preferences are that in each culture that they marry within their own culture. But my family was very supportive of me. I mentioned to them about Grace, and I told them about my intentions.
About the rice and beans?
About my rice and beans and steak. So my mother came over from Pakistan to meet her, and her family invited to their house for a dinner and all that, and we got to meet each other, families. So from then
I got along great with my mother-in-law. She was a beautiful, sweet, very warm-hearted woman that I remember her fondly. And my son got to meet her his younger years, but my daughter didn't get the opportunity. But she was a beautiful person. Yeah, me and her really connected, even though we didn't speak the same language, because she didn't even speak English.
Yeah, she didn't speak English at all.
So she only spoke Urdu, but we communicated and we felt very comfortable around each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The language of love.
Right.
Yes.
My father used to say that you don't really need to speak to communicate, just the connection, being able to connect just with the eyes and in a smile, the warmth, that energy that comes out of us. That's communication right there.
Right.
Grace won her heart.
Yeah.
She would talk to her things that I didn't even know.
Yeah, I would ask her questions, and I always had a translator, obviously, in the house. My house was always full because around the time where we moved to our house, his family was immigrating from Saudi Arabia, so I had plenty of translators.
My nieces and all, yeah.
Nieces.
So you have 3 children, right?
Two.
Boy and girl.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
They're now getting married at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, months apart, yes.
Yeah, well, no, years. Well, first they chose the same year, and I said, "Wait a minute, you can't do that to me." So my daughter says, "Okay, I want my brother to have his own, time, and I'll move it to next year." But it's such a coincidence that they're marrying a year apart, but I'm still getting calls and emails from her venue to confirm things, and I'm going, it's a year away. Can you just wait until my son's
the preparations are going on at the same time.
At the same time, so it's a little crazy.
So, Grace, you graduated from civil engineer at what age?
I don't remember the exact age. I was in my early 20s.
23.
Well, we got married when I was 23. I got married.
You graduated in 85, so that makes you 23.
Oh, we're about the same age.
Yeah. Well, he was a little older, but I graduated in 85, and then I stayed and I was working, and I did my master's in CIS.
Oh, no, I started in 80. So you did your master in what?
In computer information systems.
Okay.
Because at that time, after I took the first Fortran class, I realized that was the future.
Fortran.
Yeah, that was, yeah. I think when I took it, it was one of the last classes where they had the cards that you would input into the so I immediately recognized that was going to be the future. So I wanted to do my master's in something in computers. I really didn't want to do it in engineering because at that time, the engineering curriculum didn't really have a lot of computer education. And I didn't want to go away from South Florida. So I ended up doing it in computer information systems, which opened my eyes to a different world. But it helped later on in my first job. So I thought it was a great match, engineering with computer information systems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you graduate, and then almost right away, you get married.
Yes. I graduated in 85, and we got married that summer. He was working professionally, and I was working part-time in the county as an intern and going to school.
So you anticipate that computers are going to be the thing of the future.
Yes.
And fast forward today, what do you think about the rapid changes in technology that we're facing really after COVID? I mean, how much things are changing?
Right.
And where the world is going with technology how do you see?
Oh, no, I still see that computers and automation is the way to go. It's growing so fast that it's hard for me to keep up, even though I had that background. It's amazing what they're doing. The 3D, the BIM is so helpful to find conflicts in the drawings and prevent issues in the field and all that. And now with the 3D printing, you also have it in the field with the program that lays blocks block walls. You also have it, I know in FIU, they have the virtual programming of the activities in the field for safety purposes to prevent any accidents. So again, 30-something years plus, automation and computers are still the future. I mean, the opportunities in those fields are endless, and it just keeps going and going and going beyond the imagination. I mean, I remember when I was a little girl that we used to go to Disney World and we would ride what was it, that roller coaster in the dark?
Future.
Small world.
No, mountain. It was like something mountain where it's the roller coaster in the dark. Anyways, there after you would ride that, you would see they would have like futuristic types of scenes and homes, and they had the phone that you could see the face of the person. And back then, it's like, whoa, I can't believe that. And then now it's an everyday thing. And even now they have the latest thing is that the emails and everything comes on your watch. So it's amazing that really came true.
Yeah.
I can see.
How do you see it?
Yeah, I can see a lot of things that I think are going to come true within our lifetimes. Although I just want to see a flying car myself. But in our industry, I think there are a lot of changes that are going to be happening, especially with the AI, advancements in AI, advancements in holograms and things like that, where we'll be able to see the projects literally in 3D and all that, and right in front of us. And I think the advantages that we are going to have with this new technology are going to be very good for the industry, very good for the communities, where we'll be able to plan better communities and very efficient structures.
And be faster.
And it'll be certainly, it will have its economical impact also. It's going to create a lot of new jobs in a lot of different areas, which are...
Like what, for example?
Like, for example, the computer innovations are coming along, as we talked about in 3D printing. We will be, I think, in robotics. There will be also, I think, jobs creation in that area. In the AI industry, where it will integrate with our construction industry specifically. Besides at large, of course, AI is making a big impact in the world here. So that, and
I mean, they're already using drones in construction.
Yeah, for
right.
roofing.
That's perfect.
Exactly.
That's perfect.
Exactly. So I see a lot of new opportunities and a lot of new doors that are going to be opening. And the construction industry is not just going to be bricks and mortar.
Right.
There's a lot more
right.
involved now.
Is your company preparing to take advantage or to ride this wave or be at the forefront of this wave?
Yes.
And how are you doing?
Yes, we are always looking to make sure that we stay with the advancements that we are very closely integrating with the universities in their construction departments and engineering departments, where we communicate with them, and we also have meetings with them to see that what are their programs doing and how we can help from the real world practical point of view. In the industry wide, we have discussions also where there are research research projects going on. So we are constantly in communication with that area.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say right now we're in the process of upgrading all our computers to the latest technology. So that's one thing. Every a certain number of years we update everything just to keep up with the speed of everything and the softwares.
So when you, back in 85, when did you start? You're working, because you're a civil engineer, registered. What made you go into construction?
Well, I'm a graduate of 1983 from University of Miami. I got my licenses in 1988 and 89, and I was doing design work all those years since graduation. In 1990, I decided to go into construction. I was working in the county. At that time, I had already graduated, and I was working in the county. He was a consultant working with his brother. His brother was a very well-known civil engineer consultant working. His main client was MIA. And actually, they were pioneers to airport, right. And they were actually the pioneers to GIS. They got the first contracts to start the survey of where all the utilities were. He was involved with that. And I was working in public works. And we both wanted to do our own thing. I felt I wasn't really
meeting my potential or being challenged in the county. And he also wanted to do his own thing. So I did not want to compete with his brother. I didn't, because we're all engineers in the family. So I didn't want to go up against his same clients, and living in the same area, we would end up doing that. So I looked into construction, and I thought being a woman at that time was a big benefit and opportunity, because working in the county, I had learned about women-owned businesses and there were opportunities that were recognized for women-owned minorities. So I told him, I said, let's open up, let's start something, let's concrete something, put something in concrete.
So it was your idea?
Yeah.
So he pushed, and what happened? Did you resist a little bit, or did you say yes right away, or did you say, let's see how we do it? Or how long did it take you from the moment she came up with this idea to actually?
Yes, that was always my dream. I have grown up. I grew up in a family that was independent, their own businesses owners. So it was my all the time my plan too. So I think we both agreed.
We had the same vision.
We had the same vision. So
yeah, even though we were worlds apart, we had the same vision. Yeah.
Worlds apart. What do you mean?
Well, he was born in the other side of the world, where I came from. I came from a very small little town, and he came from a place where I had to look up in the map, where is Karachi? in 1980s, people did not know where Karachi was. Yeah, so
that's my city of birth.
Yeah.
So it took you a few years to get organized and get the license and the insurance and the bonding.
Well, I had my licenses.
Yeah,
my PE and my GC licenses.
Right. Yeah.
I had that, and then in 1990. When my son was born, January 23rd, 1990, when I held him in my arms, I said, I got to do something now.
Right, we got to do something formal.
For him or for my family.
Right.
So on February 5th, 1990, we incorporated our company.
Right. And we started slowly by, actually, we were doing structural reports for residents that had issues with their residents. He would go out and do the field work. Then we would get together, and I would type up the report and put the pictures in and just write the report up. And then we would hand it over to the homeowner, and the homeowner would take it to the insurance. So that's how we got started slowly. And in 92 was the Hurricane Andrew, right? And that was a blessing for us. Unfortunately, you could say it's a blessing for us, but it was terrible for other people, because it gave us the big push. Since we had already started doing the structural reports for reimbursements for homeowners, people started calling us left and right. Everybody's houses was affected somehow here in South Florida. So that really gave us a push. And then the same clients that we were doing the reports for started to call us back to do the renovations, because us being both GCs and him having the PE, it was a perfect thing to do, right? So we got involved with the renovations. And
that's how you get into construction.
And
the insurance industry was your first client?
Actually, the homeowners were our clients. Yeah.
Homeowners actually paid you to do the renovation.
Right.
They must have liked you guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were able to
help a lot of people. Yeah, because it was hard to find someone. Back then this type of company there weren't a whole lot of people that were doing that. So we did help quite a number of homeowners, but we rapidly after that, or shortly after we got involved with homeowners, his background was more working with the government. When he was in Pakistan, his father worked with the U.S. government. So he always wanted to go into that facet. And actually, he attended a seminar. Tell him about the seminar that you attended.
Yeah, so U.S. Army Corps of Engineers have this very good program where the retired officers mentor the new people who want to be on their own. So there was this seminar going on one day. I saw that in the publications. So I went to attend that. And it was room full, standing room only.
Where?
In Miami Lakes. It was in one of these auditoriums, and there was really no room to even stand. I always sit in the front whenever I am in any meetings or any attendance. And the officer said that, although this is a full house here today, unfortunately, I'm going to say that there's going to be only one person out of you that who's going to really go into business. And I said to myself, I think I'm going to be that person.
Into that field.
And that sort of, gave me that, aspiration that I needed. I was already, always thinking about going into my business, owning my own business.
But going into the government.
Yeah. So then I suddenly, contacted the SBA office in Miami. They had an local office on US 1 close to University of Miami. I went and prepared my business plan.
Yeah. Our business plan.
So did you go there to get orientation for funding for something?
Yes. So I went to, I was looking for, the initial funding to start the business. We were not really, we didn't have much at all at that time.
Right.
So
and we weren't, the thing that I think really helped us was that him being a consultant working for the county and the government, and me working in the county, I was not afraid of the paperwork or the documentation, and he already knew what to present to the owner.
Knew how to execute the work.
So it really was a match made in heaven, because you need both. You need, in our business, we need someone that is not afraid of the documentation. Working with the government, it's all about documentation and being organized.
So you basically, you go back, you go to the SBA, you do your business plan. Did you get funding?
No. I was in a way very disappointed, because when I set up the appointment, I went to the meeting, and the gentleman came out from his office. I was sitting in a small little conference room, and he said, without even saying hello, said, Mr. Uddin, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to get any funding from us. I said, I wasn't even asking the funding yet. I said, okay, what happened here? I was shocked.
Yeah, what's the criteria?
What's the criteria? So I was really disappointed. Anyway, I wasn't going to take that as anything to push me down or anything. I stood up. I said, thank you very much for your time. And the next thing I know, that I went to my banker, the very good banker. There was a bank called Barnett Bank at that time.
Oh my God!
It was right next to the office.
Centuries ago.
Three decades ago,
Right,
so the gentleman was very nice, very good friend of mine. So I went to him. I said, John, I need your help.
Yeah, back then, yeah.
I explained to him what happened. So he asked me if you have any money. I said, no, I don't have any money. That's why I'm in front of you. So then we start talking about to see if, what can we do. So he said, do you have any credit card? I said, oh yeah, I have credit card. So he said, why don't you borrow the money on the credit card, cash advance? And because I needed to have insurance to activate my license.
Right.
That was a requirement of the Department of Professional Regulations. So I said, wow, that's a good idea. So I immediately borrowed money on my credit card. It was a Chase Visa card. At that time, it was Chase MasterCard. And I put money from that.
Northwestern, I think it was.
No, it was Chase, yeah.
How much was the insurance back then for the life?
I put in about $15,000.
Yeah, that's what it cost.
So, yeah.
But even, I'll tell you something, even before that, when I was doing my master's, I think it was my last semester, I did my master's, and I was in a program where the university paid my master's. So I was able to get guaranteed student loans. And back then, for master's students, it was $5,000. So I told Naeem, I'm going to use my master's loan, and we're going to buy a computer. That was even before that. And we used that money to buy our first IBM AT or XT, which was a monster. And that's the computer we used to write our reports. Yeah. So we were, if I can add, we were both very cautious of spending, and I believe that one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons we have been successful is because we have always had good credit. From the very, very beginning, both him and I, just by default, we knew that we had to have good, spotless credit. And if we couldn't pay ourselves, we didn't pay ourselves. But
you have to build that credibility.
Right. The credit for newcomers into the business, Your credit is
If you want people to trust you, you need to have that credibility. You need to have that character.
Well, for bonding, right? They say the three C's for bonding.
Correct.
And in our industry, a lot of people don't understand how important being bondable is.
Yes.
It's not even if you don't do government work,
Right.
Mhm.
but the criteria around it, the structure that you could have to put in place in terms of around financial statement, around reporting, around
Right.
credibility is crucial. So here's what I'm kind of curious now.
Mhm.
I know what it is to raise a family and at the same time, I guess raise a business. It can become your child too.
Yes, it is.
First, how did you divide the workload, right? In terms of, you were saying a little bit later that you were more in the administrative side and you were more in the execution side, but I just want you to tell me, how do you divide the organizational structure? Who's responsible for what?
Yeah.
And then when you went home, how did you change hats?
Okay.
Who is leading the company, and then who's leading the work, the family life?
Mhm.
Who's the head in one place and who's the head in the other?
I did-
Can I ask Naeem to respond?
Yes.
Sure.
Just because I want to make sure that, because he's not going to be, I want to see what he says, and then I know you're going to say what it is.
Okay.
So in house, I can tell you that who sits at the head of the table. Okay, that's her. That's Grace.
Yeah.
Grace is in charge of the house.
Yeah, Grace is in charge of the house. I don't get involved in that. Happy wife, happy home. So I believe on that very strongly. So from that point of view, of course, her personality and her passion is extremely great. That she has been helped. Of course, the kids are grown up and they have had the best mother that they can expect. And then Grace is that kind of lady. In the office, she's also very involved. I mean, she's there every day. She takes care of the administrative part, the contractual part, the liaison with our clients. Our clients know her on a first name basis. If they don't get a response back from me, guess who they call? They call the boss.
Yeah.
They call Grace.
I find them.
And with her approach in the office and at home, there is one common denominator, that she maintains that harmony and that beautiful environment in the office also. All of our employees feel like as if we are all a family. We, in fact, tell them that you are not employees of the company. You are a family.
Right.
This is a family, that we have here today. And we have been very lucky to have that sort of, environment, that healthy environment that has, I think, one of the reasons that has benefited, the company has benefited from that. 32 years later, we have employees that go back 15, 20 years with us. And people come there happy, they leave happy year after year.
And that's, thank you. And I wanted him to say, because I know that. I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so, people that are watching us don't know. A lot of times perception is different.
Uh-huh.
And I appreciate how you have raised her with the honor that she has earned and deserves. So
thank you.
tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, originally I started more on the administrative part, helping him. But once we actually got involved with the construction of government facilities with Miami-Dade and Broward, we actually split, because I wasn't the secretary. Okay, I was an actual project manager. So we split the project. I learned very soon, or very quickly, that we could not work on the same project. No. That was not a good idea. That was not a good idea. So what we did was we would split the project, and we would come together when we had a technical issue, that whether I didn't know, or he had a question, or he wanted to confer what my opinion was. He always asked my opinion just to pick my brains, but that's how we kept harmony in the office, was that we each ran our own projects. I was in the field every day. I had projects in Liberty City, in Homestead. So I was all over the county back then. And sometimes we didn't even see each other during the day, only when we got home. So in that respect, that's how we ran the businesses. He was the leader in certain projects. And then I always had my niche in school board, Miami-Dade schools. And then in Broward, actually, I was the first I was the first one they contacted for the first school board job back in 2000. And then at home, I've always been, I would say, the leader at home. I'll tell you that it's very challenging, and it's been very challenging to raise a family and have your own business because of the amount of my involvement. It's like I always say, I'm not the secretary. I have my own secretary, but because as a woman, I think we're very passionate about our projects. We want to be very detailed, much more than men in general.
Not that guy.
Well, he's very detailed, but
Very detailed.
yeah, but I'm also very detailed. So it was hard to break away, to say, I got to go home to my kids and the house. Fortunately, I've been privileged with always having family help. His family, as I said before, was immigrating to this country, so they lived with us for a certain number of years. And as a matter of fact, we were 10 at one time living in the same house. That was a challenge, yeah. But my kids were surrounded by family, by their cousins, by their aunts. In a way, that was such a blessing because I didn't have, my kids were not with babysitters.
Right.
So they were with family. And then after they moved on to their own homes and all that, then my aunt migrated and she stayed with us. She's been with us like for 20 something years helping raise my kids.
So moving, so the companies, things are going well. What happened among you guys as a relationship? How do you protect your relationship? I mean, the love and passion, so that it would stay and don't become friends or coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
In your relationship itself. And how do you handle conflict? How do you handle challenges at work? Because our industry can be very stressful, especially when you're not getting paid. And now this is affecting the livelihood of both of you. And people handle stress differently. So how do you handle stress? And how do you make sure that you have love and passion both in your relationship through the years?
Yes. So, relationship, being husband and wife, always above everything. To me, that is number one to preserve, that's number one to maintain. Yes, in real life, the challenges of the business affect, but when I go home, I turn the switch off. I tell her, don't talk to me about projects or business or anything. Yeah, we do talk, but we don't go into any detail. We just say, okay, what did you do today?
I have to
what's
wait
going on?
For the right time.
Yeah, because I would not really go into, when I come home, I'm like home. I'm at my home. I'm feeling good there. I'm with my kids. I'm spending time at home. Yes, in the office, it's totally different. But at the same time, we know that, look, we are husband and wife. I know that she's my wife and that I'm there to certainly support in any challenges that I can do. I take this stress in a very different way. I think I handle pretty well. I sit and think, and then I don't really, I would say,
overreact.
Right. But everybody takes it differently, which is fine. But
we're very professional in the office. We're super professional, and we are very respectful, not just among us two, but among everybody. And that's one of the things that even our employees have told us. I quit my last job because my boss would always be screaming and da da da. And I said, well, that's not going to happen here. So we keep a very professional, family-oriented office and staff. And like he said, I give that motherly type of love. And the way to keep harmony up among us, like I said before, is we separate our tasks. He does his things, certain things in the office. I do certain things in the office. And we complement each other.
So I understand that at some point you went after federal job, which means that you're not locally here in South Florida. You have to travel. And I have done that too. Actually, it's one of my main clients, the federal government. That means we travel. How do you handle that? Who did most of the traveling?
So
we didn't
handle the
just a small correction in that
we didn't
regard.
have to travel.
Our federal projects are all based in the Tri-County area, which is Miami-Dade County, Broward, and Palm Beach. So fortunately, we didn't have to travel. Recently, as we are exploring more of the federal arena, we have been going to certain conferences where you and I met last November and the couple of years before that, if you remember, in Dallas. So fortunately, over the last 32 years, we didn't have to travel a whole lot because our work area, the boundaries are from Key West to West Palm Beach.
In Okeechobee, up to
Okeechobee, which is in West Palm Beach County and all that. So we've been very fortunate in that regard.
Yeah.
So basically, geographic expansion has been a limitation for you to grow more in the federal sector. Because you haven't really.
Yeah, we still have potential for.
You have the potential, but you decided this is what we're going to cut.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So I see. That was not our case. We actually selected the clients that we wanted to work for, and wherever the client sent us, this is where we would go. Sometimes we were we had a client. We did a lot of work here, but if that client was very happy with us and wanted us to go. And it's not abnormal to have a client that your first job is in Florida and then you go to Mississippi. Right. Or you go to, so, because it's weird. Sometimes they get projects from another Army Corps of Engineers office that they want this office to manage and so on and so forth. So it's not necessarily. But yes, we met last November
in SAMI.
In the SAMI, Society of American Military Engineers Small Business Conference, which is the biggest conference for the small business in the federal market.
Yes.
Right.
It's huge. And it's very impactful. So I welcome you guys to look at that.
Yes.
And so what are you looking for now at this stage of your company?
Yeah, well, we are still staying in the same arena, which is we are 100% government. We don't do any private work. And our governmental clients are local, state, and federal. So we are looking to grow more into federal area. We are not hesitant in traveling. We certainly have looked at the opportunities in other states where we can be helpful. We want to be very selective in selecting our projects, where we can actually make the difference, where we can bring our experience and make the experience a pleasant experience, and we are helpful in solving the problems. We are very service oriented. We are very performance oriented. And when I present our company to the clients, I want to make sure that they understand that we are there to solve their problems. We are there to take their issues and provide them solutions. We don't go after every project. We're very selective. We know that what our experience is and where we can help. So that's our future goal is.
So let's fast forward about COVID has presented different challenges to the industry. Where on one end, there's incredible amount of money to be spent. Not every client, but in general, there's an overflow of funds to be spent in our industry. And on the other hand, it's hard to find people and resources. I mean, issues with lumber, issues with
materials.
steel, material across the board. So how do you see this affecting our industry even more later on? Do you see that's being solved? What can you talk about that?
Well, COVID certainly has brought in some new ideas how we can manage ourselves. One of them being that we could do these virtual meetings,
which is
work
remotely.
These softwares existed before, but were not utilized to that extent. We have had our best years during the COVID times. I was surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we were essential business.
Until I still remember when the mayor of Broward County said that everything was closed the day. It was in March that all businesses were to be closed. And as a matter of fact, I was sitting in a hotel because our house was under renovation and I couldn't take it anymore. I said, I'm going to a hotel. So here we are sitting in a hotel and we hear this over the news. And I look at Naeem and I said, oh my God, this is really serious. We have to close the business. So I'm always the more worried, precautious type. So I said, Naeem, we got to call everybody and tell them they can't go to work, not to come to work tomorrow, Monday. So I call everybody and say, listen, the mayor has said that we have to shut down. We have to shut down. So we did. We closed the office on Monday. And then Tuesday morning, we're getting calls like, where are you people? Where are you guys? It says, who says you're non-essential? So that's when we found out that we were essential workers.
So I downloaded the ordinance. And I said, let me see what's going on here. So I read the ordinance and it said, the construction industry was not.
We never stopped.
We didn't stop. So we only stopped for one day.
One day.
And you were already in a hotel.
And I was we were both in a hotel because I couldn't take the dust from home anymore.
But some of our employees did work from home.
Yeah,
we had a very
we were
very flexible in that regard. So whoever was able to come to the office, fine. Others can work from home.
What was the biggest challenge during COVID?
I think the resources were definitely creating a challenge to us because it affected everybody in every aspect of life.
Right, and then the unknown, right? The unknown of COVID. So if someone would get COVID at a school per se, then the whole job would have to be shut down. And how many days do you stay home, and when do you get retested? The protocols were ever changing. So yeah, that was very challenging to keep the job.
But our clients were also very accommodating. I think they knew that this was creating a very unique challenge that nobody has ever faced before in our lifetime. So they were very accommodating. Timelines of the project were adjusted. The working hours were adjusted.
Right.
So that was very helpful.
Tell me, why do you think small businesses fail as much as they do? What is it that happens that shouldn't happen to small businesses that fail? And in your opinion, what are the 3 things that have made you successful during the last 30 years?
Well, I'll say the first one. First thing, and I think that the key is your credit, and to carry that a little further is not going crazy. Like when you get so enthusiastic when you get your first job, your second job, and a lot of people just go crazy. They start buying Mercedes, they start buying the big house, and they don't realize that life and business is a roller coaster, And I remember one of my old bosses back in the county. He told me, he says, Grace, when it rains, it pours, but when it's dry, it's dry. And I'll never forget those words. They were so impacting to me because I knew what he was saying.
What did it mean?
It means that when you get work, sometimes you're going like, you just get inundated with work. But then there's a time recessions come and go, you have no work, or it's very slow. So it's like when it's busy, you have to save and not go crazy, be conservative. And there we have helped each other because he's super conservative and I'm also conservative. I don't go crazy about spending when we're doing well. So when the times that we have been dry, we have been able to live off and carry the business. That's really why we've been successful, because during the dry periods, the recessions that we've had, and we've had more than one, we have been able to carry the business and not and wait. Hopefully be patient and wait for it to go back up. That's number one. You can say the rest.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and we agree on both on that point that financial responsibility is very important. And also, I am of the believer that you have to have a controlled growth. Yes, there's plenty of work out there. Anybody can get work tomorrow. But do not oversell yourself. Do not get overloaded. Try to focus delivering, the most excellent product or project the way you can finish. Earn that respect, earn that trust from your client. Earning that trust and then maintaining that trust is extremely important to me. And I would advise any small businesses who want to go into business or who are in current business to really work on that financial responsibility and then delivering.
Right. It's not the number of jobs you get, it's the number of jobs you close that make you successful.
Well, you can have one job that you don't close when you're out of business.
Right.
We have one project away out of, basically being out of business.
I agree with you. And I think this is very normal in small businesses. We tend to become revenue focused, sales focused.
Right.
But a revenue, especially in construction, projected profits is not cash, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's profit. It's going to become profit at the end of the job. So
and you have to be ready to work hard. Okay, there is no relaxation in that, and I believe that hard work always pays off.
Yeah,
there is somebody up there taking care of that. Whenever somebody puts the hard, work, the sweat in it, it's going to pay off, no doubt. I'm a strong believer on that. So be prepared to work hard, be prepared to be available to your client, and approach your business from financial responsibility in earning that trust. That can be affected if you fail in one job.
Here, thank you so much. I totally agree with you. So if you had a magic wand, and I guess I'm going to ask individually.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious in this one. If you had a magic wand and After 30 years of experience or 33 years in the construction industry, and you could design the way we are going to operate in our industry, how contracts are going to be issued, what are going to be the protocols, what are the rules of the game, what three things would you put in place that could make more people successful in the industry? Reduce the level of challenges that are not necessarily productive towards the outcome, and get more projects finished on time and on budget. And it could be a hard question, but what would you change? What would you do differently? How can we innovate?
Something that comes right to my mind is the way contracts are written from the aspect of working with the government. I think that currently the way the contracts are written, I could read them one way and interpret them one way, and you can read them and interpret them the other way. And I think that is the item that causes conflict, that causes misinterpretation, which leads to claims later on in the project. So I think just, from the top of my head, if we could find a way that it's not written one-sided, always on the client side, I think there is a way for the contract to be in harmony, that it would work for both the contractor and the owner, and the owner gets his project completed, and the contractor, decent profit in harmony, not, getting lawyers involved in the sense that, well, we interpret it this way and this is what it means, and the contractor says, well, no, this is what it means to us and this is how we interpret it. So that, for me, that would be something that needs to be worked on in the future, that would make life a lot easier and less stressful.
Anything else?
Yeah, and I think there has to be a dialogue on the same note between the industry and the government. I think there is a disconnect right now where the government, or maybe the government has good intentions because it is for the public. However, people who are designated to run the projects or run that program are perhaps, and I say that with respect certainly, that they are on a different altogether different world out there. And the industry is on a different note. So there has to be a dialogue to perhaps close that gap and make it more even, so that everybody benefits. At the end of the day, it is to have that good, healthy environment. And sometimes it seems that we are on two different tracks.
The good and healthy environment. What can we do from our perspective? Why? Because I know the environment is not healthy and good. Mm-hmm. In our dealings with government, and some government agencies are
easier than others
or more reasonable than others.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And really, I think it's the perspective. Let's say some think we should not make any money, general contractors, and some think, you're entitled to this.
Of course.
If I make a mistake, there's more accountability. Mm-hmm. On the client side. If they make a mistake, mm-hmm. they are very quick to recognize and then say, you're entitled to it. Right. And in other agencies, especially down in our area, you almost have to, it's really, really hard.
Right.
Accountability is not part of the culture of the government.
Of the client, right.
Because in the federal government, mm-hmm. if they pay you late, you'll receive a check. Mm-hmm. Interest. You don't even have to ask it. Sometimes that actually causes more issues because you have to, enter another invoice that you didn't even produce. So, but the rules are clear, and if it's on you, then you're going to pay the price.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I mean, wait, let me answer this. Wait, 1 second, Naeem. 1 second. The thing is that it's a very real issue. We have a meeting very soon with a client of ours. We finished the job. Everybody was super happy. Okay. We stayed on the job until the owner was satisfied. He asked us to do certain things. We did him, whatever, and he got his CO. Now, the contract says that if the contractor's late, liquid damages apply, right? If the owner produces delays, how on earth is that ever fair? And how on earth are we supposed to maintain an office open when we have to lose all this money that wasn't planned for as long as they want to, just because it's not in the contract? And
if you had to, and you can say, well, I live that in my blood.
Right.
And contractually speaking, like I said, there's not really accountability for some agencies.
Correct.
And if you go after a request for an equitable adjustment, some entities say, you know what, yes, you're entitled. And this is more on the federal side. But on the local government,
right? No.
What are you going to do? Sue the
right?
You're going to lose your company,
right?
Because they have attorneys sitting there, that they're on payroll. Who cares?
Right.
Thank you for listening to Thriving in Construction, the podcast with Patricia Bonilla. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to help support the podcast, please share it with others and leave a rating or review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. If you have any suggestions or any related topics you would like us to tackle in our future episodes, feel free to reach Patricia by sending her a message through the website anchor.fm/thrivinginconstruction or find her on LinkedIn. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week here in Thriving in Construction, the podcast.